You're gonna regret coming here.
Now get in the car.
Need a little help there, sweetheart? You're looking a little shaky.
Don't worry, we'll take good care of you.
I never imagined a simple stop for gas would change the course of my entire life. The night it happened, the sun had just begun to melt behind the hills, bleeding orange light across the cracked asphalt of that small-town station. My old minivan rattled to a stop beside pump number 4, coughing like an exhausted old man. The gas light had been blinking for the last 10 miles, and I had been whispering prayers between every mile marker, hoping the tank wouldn't run completely dry. My son, Daniel, was home with a neighbor, and all I could think about was the dinner I still had to make, the bills sitting unpaid on my counter, and the list of school supplies I couldn't afford. Life had felt like a slow collapse, a constant ache I had learned to live with. I remember fumbling through my wallet, counting out a few wrinkled bills that smelled faintly of grease from the diner where I worked double shifts. My hands shook a little. I told myself it was just from being tired, but deep down I knew it was fear of running out of gas, of running out of money, of running out of strength. Then I heard laughter, not the kind that lightens a room, but the kind that curdles the air around you. 3 men stepped out of the gas station store. Their boots were loud on the pavement, their voices even louder. Tattoos crept up their arms like dark vines, and their eyes locked on me with the kind of amusement that makes your stomach turn cold. "Hey, sweetheart," one of them called. "Need some help with that rust bucket?" I tried to ignore them. I focused on the gas nozzle, on the slow rhythm of the pump. But they moved closer. One whistled low under his breath, the sound sharp and ugly. "You always come out here alone?" he asked. Another reached for my purse, laughing when I pulled it close. I could feel the panic rise in my chest like a scream I couldn't let out. I thought about Daniel, about his smile when he said he wanted to be a police officer when he grew up, because he wanted to protect people like his mom. I thought about how I had promised him we'd be okay, a promise that suddenly felt like a lie. The tallest one leaned in, his breath sour with beer. "Ain't right for a pretty thing like you to be out here alone." His hand brushed against my arm. I jerked back. The gas pump clicked, the nozzle slipping from my grasp. It hit the ground with a metallic thud. My heart was pounding so hard I could barely breathe. Then the ground started to shake. At first I thought it was just me trembling. But then I heard it a low rumble, distant but growing, like thunder rolling closer with every second. The men turned their heads, squinting down the road. From the curve of the highway, I saw them, a pack of motorcycles, chrome flashing in the dying sunlight, engines growling like a storm ready to break. There must have been a dozen of them. Black jackets, steel helmets, headlights cutting through the dust. They moved in tight formation, like soldiers on some silent mission. The 3 men near me froze. Their laughter died in their throats. The bikers rolled into the lot, surrounding pump number 4 in a slow, deliberate circle. The lead rider was massive, broad shoulders, gray threaded through his beard, eyes that seemed to see everything. He cut the engine, and the others followed. The sudden silence felt heavy, almost sacred. He looked at the men, then at me. No words, just that stare, cold, steady, unflinching. One of the men stuttered, "Hey man, we were just..." But he didn't finish. The biker took 1 step forward. That was all it took. The 3 of them backed away, tripping over themselves as they scrambled to their car. Tires squealed. Then they were gone, leaving behind the echo of their fear. I stood there shaking, my knees weak, tears threatening to fall. The lead biker nodded once to his group. A few of them checked around the lot. One picked up the gas nozzle. Another tightened a loose wire under my hood. They didn't speak much, but their silence felt safer than any words could. When the leader finally approached me, I could barely look up. I thought he might pity me, or worse, judge me. But his eyes weren't cruel. They were tired, kind. He slipped a few folded bills into my hand, then said quietly, "Keep going. You're stronger than you think." I wanted to say thank you, but my voice wouldn't come. They mounted their bikes again, engines roaring back to life. I watched as they disappeared down the highway, their taillights glowing like embers fading into the night. I thought that was the end of it. But I was wrong. 2 days later, a police officer came to my door. His name was Detective Harris, a tall man with a calm voice and eyes that had seen too much. He told me there had been an incident. The same 3 men who harassed me were found beaten near an old warehouse outside of town. Not dead, but close. One of them was still in critical condition. He asked if I had seen anyone that night who might have had reason to confront them. I hesitated. I told him about the bikers, how they had scared the men off but hadn't hurt anyone, at least not while I was there. Harris took notes quietly, his expression unreadable. Then he asked a strange question. Did you happen to notice the name on their jackets? I frowned, trying to remember. No, just a patch of wolf, I think. Or maybe a skull. He nodded slowly, closing his notebook. If you remember anything else, call me. After he left, I couldn't shake the unease. I knew the bikers had meant no harm to me, but something about Harris's tone made me wonder if they were part of something bigger, something darker. That night, I dreamed of engines and fire, of headlights cutting through fog, and a voice, the biker leader's voice, saying again, "You're stronger than you think." A week passed. Then Harris called again. They'd found one of the bikes abandoned by the river. He wanted me to come down to the station to look at a photo lineup. My stomach turned cold. I agreed. At the station, the smell of coffee and paper filled the air. Harris slid a photo across the table, the biker leader, his steel gray eyes staring straight into the camera. Do you know this man? I hesitated. That's him. He's the one who helped me, Harris nodded. His name was Jack Rowan, ex-Marine. Used to run a motorcycle club called the Iron Sons. They disbanded a few years ago after some incidents. He's been off the radar since. Was? I asked. You said was. Harris sighed. We found his body this morning. Same river where the bike was left. The room spun. I gripped the edge of the table. You think he killed those men? We're not sure, Harris said. But one of them's been talking. Claims Jack and his crew tracked them down that night after they left you. Said they dragged them out of their car and made them pay for what they did. I shook my head. No, he wouldn't. He didn't even speak to me except to tell me to keep going. Harris studied me for a long moment. Sometimes people like that carry ghosts you can't see. He might have seen something in you, something that reminded him of someone he lost. Over the next few days, the town buzzed with rumors. Some said the bikers were vigilantes. Others called them criminals. To me, they were something else, a storm that came and went, leaving behind a strange kind of peace. But then, one evening, I found an envelope under my door. Inside was a small patch, a wolf's head embroidered in silver thread, and a note in careful handwriting. For Daniel. From Jack, I froze. My eyes burned as I read the last line. Tell him to always protect what's right. I called Detective Harris. He came right away. When he saw the note, his expression softened. Looks like Jack wanted to make sure his message got through. He didn't take it as evidence. He said quietly, keep it. I think he meant for you to have it. Months passed. Life slowly found its rhythm again. The bills didn't stop coming, but somehow things felt lighter. The diner gave me a raise. Daniel started 3rd grade, proud of the wolf patch he kept tucked inside his backpack like a secret badge. But the story didn't end there. One rainy afternoon, I was called to the station again. Harris was waiting with a file in his hands. He looked older somehow, the weight of unfinished business pulling at his face. Marissa, he said, you deserve to know what really happened. He told me they'd found Jack's truck in a storage unit miles from town. Inside there was a box, photos, military medals, and letters addressed to someone named Lena. Turns out Lena had been his wife. She was killed in a carjacking 5 years earlier by the same 3 men who attacked me. They'd been released on a plea deal, free to live their lives while Jack's wife stayed buried. So when he saw you, Harris said quietly, he didn't just see a woman in trouble. He saw the moment he lost everything and a chance to stop it from happening again. Tears blurred my vision. I whispered, he saved me because he couldn't save her. Harris nodded. He turned himself in the night before we found him. Said he wanted to confess, but when the deputy went to get him the next morning, Jack was gone. Looks like he walked into that river on his own terms. The words broke something open inside me, not sadness exactly, but understanding. Jack hadn't been running from justice. He'd already faced it, every single day since the night he lost his wife. Saving me was his way of making peace. A few weeks later, the department held a small memorial for him. Harris asked me to speak. I didn't know what to say at first. But when I stood in front of that small group of officers, bikers, and townsfolk, I just told the truth. I was nobody, I said. A tired mom trying to get by. Jack Rowan reminded me that courage isn't loud. It doesn't wear a badge or a uniform. Sometimes it rides in on two wheels and disappears before you can say thank you. But it changes you. It makes you believe in something again. The room was silent. I thought of Daniel sitting in the front row, the wolf patch pinned to his jacket. He looked proud. After the service, Harris pulled me aside. You know, we're naming the community award after him, the Rowan Shield, for citizens who stand up when no one else will. I smiled through my tears. He'd hate that kind of attention. Probably, Harris said. But he earned it. That night, when I tucked Daniel into bed, he asked, "Mom, do you think Jack's in heaven?" I paused. "I think he's somewhere peaceful," I said. Maybe riding down an endless road, wind in his face, no more ghosts chasing him. Daniel smiled sleepily. "I want to be like him when I grow up." I kissed his forehead. "Then promise me you'll be brave but kind." As I turned off the light, I looked out the window. The street was quiet, the moonlight catching on something metallic across the road. For a second, I thought I saw at the glint of chrome, a motorcycle parked under the old oak tree. But when I blinked, it was gone. Maybe it was just my mind playing tricks. Or maybe, somewhere beyond the noise and heartbreak of this world, Jack Rowan was still watching, making sure people like me remembered that goodness doesn't always come dressed in white. Sometimes it's scarred, battered, and tired, but it still shows up when it matters most. That night, I slept without fear for the first time in years. The nightmares stopped, the ache in my chest eased, and when morning came, I filled my tank with gas, turned up the radio, and drove toward the horizon. Not away from my past, but toward the kind of strength Jack had seen in me all along, because he was right. I was stronger than I knew, and even though the world can be cruel, there will always be people ordinary, broken, brave people who rise up when others fall, and when they do, they remind the rest of us that kindness is never weakness, that courage is never lost, and that even in the darkest moments, hope still roars like thunder down an open road.